welcome to XReality Podcast. I'm the host, Dominic Wu, and beside me is my guest, Avi Bar-Eve, Zeev. Hi, Avi. Could you share a little bit about your background with us?
Hi, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'd like to call myself a creative technologist. I like the design side, but I also know a lot about the technology side, and I typically work with really smart teams of people who do both. They may be engineers, they may be designers, and I try to kind of straddle the gap to figure out what is the right thing to build and what are people going to actually want, as opposed to what might just seem cool to one person.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, we know that you've been in XR industry for a very, very long time. And then you start like a XR Guild, right? And I think a lot of interesting project, and also before your background is more hardware. So I think that there are a lot of very interesting things that we can definitely learn from you. And what's your journey of being where you are today?
Well, I mean, I started out really excited about 3D graphics in high school, which would have been the 80s now. I saw the movie Tron and a few other things, Last Starfighter, and I was like, that's what I want to do. And so there were no books on it. I just figured out how to do 3D graphics. I taught myself how to do it. I was just still using a Commodore 64 and trying to rotate a cube on screen and learned a lot and figured some cool things out. And that's been my whole history, is just saying, "Well, why doesn't this exist? Why can't I do this?" And then trying it and then figuring out what it needs. So I went from that to studying a little more about computer graphics in college, and then deciding between going to a company like Pixar, where I could help make movies and do research, versus doing virtual reality, which was the big new thing in 1992. Then I picked virtual reality because it was just more greenfield and joined a very early VR startup, and a lot of stories I could tell about that. But it led me to getting a great job at Disney, where I got to work on a really high end VR system that was called Aladdin's Magic Carpet. That for a lot of people my age were was the first thing that they saw that was really cool in VR. Um, and got a lot of great experience in real time 3D graphics, and did that for many years. I started getting a little worried about VR, whether it was the right thing to do. Never really loved headsets. I didn't really like HMDs, and started thinking about what else I can do, and spent a lot of time on geospatial. Worked on company called Keyhole that was the foundation of Google Maps, or Google Earth, actually, I should say, and worked on Second Life, where I helped with their sort of early metaverse kind of concept and learn what are some of the good things to do and what are some of the not so good things to do. And eventually then I got into hardware. I got hooked in with, at Microsoft first when I joined Microsoft in 2008, connected up with people who had done the Kinect sensor in Xbox, and we pitched the next new thing, which was the HoloLens. So that's where I started learning more about hardware and how to build it. Worked at Amazon on Echo frames and flying robots in Prime Air. And then that kinda set me up for being ready to work at Apple on, cool new things, the only one of which that is currently shipped is, the Apple Vision Pro. But I have interest in a wide area, and I can't talk about, anything that hasn't shipped, but, um, but that was great experience, and so did that up till 2019, and then you mentioned the XR Guild, and then after leaving Apple, I was able to reclaim a lot of my time and do some things for my family that I wanted to do for years, but also consult, and I'm on a board of directors now. And it gives me more time to do things like a nonprofit that give back to the industry, because I was helped in so many ways by people who are already established, that I want to take whatever level of clout that I've established and turn around and help other people as well. So that's why I spend my time on that.
Wow, wow. This is a very, very long list of a history of a lot of accomplishment. Yeah. So, yeah, on my notes, I wrote down the Google Map. We can talk about that Second Life and also HoloLens and drone. Wow, this is very interesting because right now I'm working on the state level, under California Community College Chancellor's Office. And currently, I have my own vertical, which is spatial AI and XR AI. And I think I'm the first person to start this initiative. And then drone is very, very interesting topic. We can talk a lot. And in fact, next week I'm going to Lift Summit in Santa Cruz, which
Mhm.
yeah, they will. Yeah, there are a lot of things that I couldn't say because that's also under NDA. But think of flying taxi, right?
Yeah.
It's also like a very exciting moment. Yeah, and for this types of, for example, like a transportation, especially for EV or mechanics, for us, I think a workforce using XR training is also a really really big part in my work. Day-to-day work. For example, right now we have some different initiatives such as healthcare in XR and also EV transportation in XR training and also the firefighter training. So there are a lot of things we can talk about, like just start from drone and transportation and XR. Yeah, and
Yeah,
Apple Vision
excellent.
Pro. Yeah, Apple Vision Pro. I know that you probably cannot talk a lot. Then we're just not talking about that, and maybe we can talk more about your vision for XR Guild. Yeah,
Okay, you wanna start with the last one? Sure. So,
sure.
well, I mean, it ties into all these things. So every one of the things you just mentioned have
Mm,
a good side, and they also have a potential bad side, right?
yes.
Uh, so, flying taxis is a good example, right? The
Hmm.
good side is we can get people around cheaper, and not everybody has to go buy a car potentially if they don't want to.
Hmm.
And we can, in a place like the Bay Area, you spend a lot of time in gridlock, and it's a really big area, but most of it is water. So being able to take a flying taxi and go across the bay, now of course there's airports in the middle. It's not safe. So we have to really be careful about that. And that's one of the things I learned a lot about in working on flying drones was the FAA's role in making things safe, right? Think about it. There's 3 major airports in the area. People who have private pilots licenses have to follow really strict rules about where they're allowed to fly for safety. Drones are going to have to obey those same rules, and in fact, even more rules. The drones are typically limited to being under 400 feet because if they go any higher, then they run the risk of running into those airplanes. There's also risks to humans on the ground. There's, you know, companies like Amazon spend a lot of time just on the question of what happens if a drone loses power and you have to make a controlled or uncontrolled landing. Is it possible to build an AI navigator that will can always think about what if I were to lose power in the next 10 milliseconds? Would I not hit anybody? And you could try to figure out a path that could be safe so that no matter what went wrong, you could try to guarantee as much as possible that you would never hit somebody or hurt somebody in the process of failing. So those are the kinds of things that engineers and designers can spend a lot of time thinking about making things safe. The reason the XR Guild exists is because people don't spend enough time outside of aviation thinking about what makes things safe. In the area of civil engineering, there are certifications that engineers have to earn, and there's rigorous tests to make sure the building or the bridge doesn't fall down because we know it'll hurt people if it does. But in computer science, that has not happened yet. There are no tests for engineers. There are no oaths that we have to take, like doctors have to take the Hippocratic Oath and uphold that. So that doesn't exist. And maybe in journalism and the military, they have their own rules of ethics, but we don't have them yet. So the first thing we did as an XR Guild was to come up with a set of principles that we think that everybody could agree to, even if you work for companies that do things that not everybody agrees with, right? There's certain things we can debate about, but there are certain things that are fundamental that everybody who works in the field should agree to, and that's what our principles say. And we've expanded them over the years to include child safety was not something we took in the first version enough. We went back and addressed it. We also spent a lot of time thinking about AI and what
Mm.
kinds of principles should we have around AI, and that's knowing that we have a diversity of people who both love AI and people who hate AI that are all members, and so we can't just pick one side of that equation. We have to figure out what's the right answer. And the hope is that as we grow, that eventually we can get to the point of trying to normalize what the right things to do are. And even in training, you'd think training can have possibly have a downside because you're just teaching people how to do things, right?
Yes.
Um, I've worked for companies who did training for military. Like I don't work on weapon systems. That's kind of where I draw my personal line. But I'll work on defensive systems for sure. And training people to drive a tank is a way of ensuring that the operators are safe, that we don't have an unnecessary loss of life. But I don't work on the weapons per se. But that's where I decide things. So there's always questions about training as to whether you're doing good for the world or not. But even if you have the most pure training that's just about teaching somebody a skill that is completely harmless, then now there's the question of job loss. In training people, are we helping to train them for new careers, or are we learning what they do so that some AI can emulate what they do and take it over because you've digitized all of the things that they do is as their expertise? So there's the big question, and even in training of ethics, and how do we make sure that the people that we're learning from have a stake in the future, and they're not just being paid a low wage to give up their livelihood and never get a job again. So these are the kinds of things that we debate and think about, and they're very, very important questions and things that I've grappled with for years. And I figured out I don't have all the answers. So I try to collaborate with other people to put our heads together to figure out what are some of the best answers. I also think the professional ethicists don't always have the right answers either because you need a combination of industry experience, practicality to know where things go wrong. So being in those meetings where the boss says, do it the wrong way, they don't say it's the wrong way, they just say it's the cheap way. And you have to be able to raise your hand and say why that's a bad idea. I've been in many of those meetings. So I've learned a lot about how to successfully push back in a way that they don't hate you. They go, "You're trying to help us do a better job." And that's something everybody can do. So we wanna be able to teach those skills.
Wow, yeah, I think extra skills like a dream or like the entire concept is really really big because in education we also had the pushbacks from, for example, in every college they have classified staff doing administration and also faculty who is purely more doing the teaching job. And for agentic AI, right now, Chancellor's office is trying to push. And then we find out that a lot of administrator is trying to push back. Why? Hey, if you implement this entire automation, then my job, where's my job? For example, right now we are trying to push the implement into 116 California community colleges using more like the consultant because every school that have consultant which helps students to consult their career or what trajectory they need to take. And right now, I saw there are some inventions from Chancellor's office. They are trying to, hey, student, list out what you like. You just click something you like, and then where do you live? And you just click. And what's your time and what's your working situation or your life, and then it will map out and automatically show you what you can enroll and what's remote, everything, just list it out. And this used to be a consultant's job. So there are also a lot of pushback. It's like, hey, I've already been working here for 10, 20 years. And now, if we implement this agentic AI system, then where's my job? Yeah, so that's one of the panic. Yeah, and also faculty doesn't want to use AI. For example, I just listened to one of the English faculty. She said that, oh, when ChatGPT launched back in 2022, yeah, English department is done. Pretty much students just use ChatGPT to come up with assignment. And we
Yeah.
also are trying to, one of the big topic is that how teacher redo our assessment for student. For example, before it's more like a writing. Now writing, everybody use ChatGPT. So people said that maybe we use presentation, in-person presentation, or using, group or just check the process instead of, oh, you need to give me the final essay. So there are a lot of like a debating. Yeah. And also, for example, like a white collar job is pretty much getting less and less. And right now, blue collar job. start, become the new white collar. So a lot of teachers are trying to implement more like a job ready, or you see like right now we have less newborn kids. So high schooler is getting less and less. And for
Yeah.
community college, the enrollment rate is still increasing. So we are trying to attract more already in the job, like a lot of professionals. They want to retrain themselves to be more AI ready.
Yeah,
So a
I
lot of,
have a lot of friends who, they people who've lost their jobs
yeah,
in this latest cycle have actually become teachers. They're actually working for
yes,
schools.
yes,
So they're getting it's a lot of good influx and skills. One of the things I wanted to say about the AI though, and I try to not call myself an AI expert because I don't build the models, but I understand enough about computer science and how things work, and I'm pretty good at math. Um, Here's the thing that most people I think don't appreciate about AI is that by ingesting all of the content of the world, right? Essentially scraping the entire internet or all the books or training that AI is effectively a prediction machine. The current generation of AI is. And as a prediction machine, it's gonna give you the most likely answer, right? So that's good in a sense. If you wanna ask what's the most likely answer to some question, it's gonna give it to you. But that's also the most average answer. And so what AI is really doing is for people who might be below average writers, it's bringing them up to the average, right? For people who might be below average at math, it's helping to bring them up to the average. But for people who are above average, it's gonna bring them down. It's actually gonna lower their skill. So one of the things I think schools can look at is assuming the new baseline is everybody uses some kind of LLM in their work, who can exceed that work? Who can do something exceptional above and beyond what that's giving you? Because that's considered normal, average. That's not even going to be a C-level course anymore. That's table stakes. That's just turning in your exam or your paper. What really matters is how what can you do that's unique and exceptional on top of that. And I think that's the way that hopefully people will be judged in the future is what are you doing that's new and different that isn't just the average of what everybody else does. Now, people who work in corporations, a lot of the work they do average is fine. They are just moving information from one place to another, making the same decisions every day, and they can employ AI agents to do a lot of their work, and maybe that saves them time, maybe it reduces the number of people who work there, but that's their choice to do, and maybe it's pushed down on top. Maybe it's not their choice all the time, but the things that matter are the things that are human and unique and exceptional, and I don't believe anything yet where they say we have PhD level, AI. If it was, it would have need to been trained only by PhD level data and
yes.
thinking, and it's not. It's trained right now by everything. Maybe they hire PhDs to do some of the data labeling, but I haven't seen anything yet, like, other than it working faster than humans. I haven't seen it work better than humans in too many places yet. Not even the promised radiologist. They said, "Oh, it's gonna
All
replace the
right.
radiologist at finding tumors." No, not yet. It can help radiologists, but it does not replace them in any way yet.
Yeah, yeah. Just like for example, like right now when I code, I don't really write any single line of coding or trying to find the variables, like the original the old way of doing it, but more like for example, Claude, right? Using Claude code, we do the Claude.md and we do a lot of skill.md and trying to do more like a big scope of more like project management or more like the direction and then start creating like a backslash and every day run it and let it to do the work and we also like give like a different agent right and we start
Yeah,
giving the agent work
yeah.
yeah so
I
I
I
think
use I use Claude a lot as well, and it used to be I'll tell you the way I used to work is I would walk around for 6 hours and think, not sit at a
mm,
keyboard. I would think about what I was gonna do next, and then I'd sit at the keyboard for an hour and type really fast, and then debug what I just did. Now the typing part is even faster, so I get Claude to type it for me, and I don't have to think at the coding level of the
mm,
specific code. But I still need those 6 hours to walk around and think because I'm thinking about what is the right way to do this? And I don't wanna just hand that off to a computer yet because it doesn't do as good a job yet as I would do in design and in
mm,
architecture. But it does speed up the coding part a lot, and that's
mm,
super helpful. I don't have to type anymore except to Claude. So, but I agree with you. You have what it's effectively done. Anybody who's using this, if you weren't a programmer before, you are now. Not in the sense that you write code, but you have to start thinking like a programmer in terms of breaking a big idea down and structuring it so that the AI will do the right thing and what you intend. You can't just give it a high level. Make me an app to sell on the app store. Like it needs the specifics of what do you want to do and how do you want to do it, and that's what makes your product unique is what you put into it. So, I think it's fine. I think ethically, I don't have a problem right now with people using Claude, and mostly because, most of the data that the coding assistants were built on was licensed. It was mostly MIT or Apache licensed on GitHub. There's still some questions about the licensing of some of the data. Did they use GPL code in training these things? Did they use any not open source code? But for the most part, I think they did have ready access to open source code and things like Stack Exchange, which was super helpful in the past. So I have less ethical concern about using these things, but more about how it's used and what it's used for than more. But for art and writing, I have more concerns about where did the data come from.
Yeah, yeah, because we know that, for example, like I think the government right now is pushing more like you see like just there's no regulation. Before we had a lot of regulation, but right now with the new government, I think all the regulation was being almost, I think almost none, and the government is trying to get all the data right and working super fast without any like a safety, just like we need more people like you to help us to safeguard, right? For example, like a weapon used in the war, right? So I think this is definitely we need to be aware of, for example, just like you said, how it is used, right? And what it's used for.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, and I
Yeah.
totally
No,
agree with
nobody from the government has called me to join the science and their science and technology council. So they
I
call
think
Mark Zuckerberg and Larry Ellison.
I think it's more like a I think this government has a very I would say more like a Department of Defense now become Department of War. We have one war and we might have another next war that we were like, why we even get into those? They are not even
Yeah, it's a
doing.
whole other topic.
Yeah, right.
There's things that look, my approach here is there's things that I can fix and there's things I can't fix. I can vote and
Mm,
I can donate to politics, but I can't do too much except, I don't think I'm the kind of person to ever run for office. So I doubt that. But when it comes to software and computer science and design,
mm,
I can actually do something. And so that's where I put my energy. I worry about all those things, but I feel like this is my advice to people who are stressed out about the world as well.
mm,
Focus on what you can do.
mm,
Focus on the things that you can change. And it might not be everything. It might just be one corner of the world, but pick up a broom and
mm,
start sweeping. Because if everybody picks up a broom and starts sweeping, the world will be a much better place because there's so many of us and so many places that need to be fixed. Don't always just worry about the one biggest thing
mm.
that we can fix. Those things are gonna have to resolve themselves, but all of us can do a little bit, and if we did, I think the world would already be a better place by just the fact that we all tried.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I think yeah, as long as we use our own like strength and focus on doing something good instead of something, because we all know what types of things is good, what types of things is a little bit off. So I do agree with you that yeah, something that we cannot change, we just hopefully it's not going too crazy, and we just do whatever we can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I totally agree with you that yeah, for example, like before, I usually sit in front of the computer, do the actual work. And now I even give myself like a couple of like a noon time and go out to read books to get more inspiration, because I find out the execution part is just like you said, that you just write down what you like things to be done. And it's really good to reach the average. For example, like right now, I'm trying to create like a curriculum in the 3D types of visualization for biology teacher. But if I just use Claude, Claude will put all the different information wrong. And I was like, hey, I saw this is like a simple, like the 3D animal structure. They just ping the things wrong. And I have to, I even went to bookstore and buy like the biology book and trying to understand and also start labeling the data on my own. So it just like you said that it's not really reach out to the PhD. I even trying to feed it with PhD data. But I
Yeah.
think people who use it, if you want the information be super accurate, I think the person who design it need to understand and human in the loop and just correct Claude's information or AI's information and make it like a very accurate. Yeah.
There was a professor who did this intentionally and said to his class,
Mm,
I think it was a he, use AI to write your paper, but what you're gonna be graded on is first identifying what AI got wrong,
mm,
and then what's the right answer? So that he actually challenged everybody to use AI first
mm,
and then go figure out why it's not right, where it's not right, and then do the research to figure out what you can do better. So that's exactly what I'm talking about of figure out what is the added value that humans can provide because look, no matter how good AI gets and it will get better,
mm.
that will still be the average. If everybody's using it, it's still the average. So you have
Yeah.
to figure out how to go beyond the average and do something better, or else you're going to be at average or below average forever. So the trick is to always figure out what more we can do that it doesn't
Yeah.
already do. And it's okay to use it where it accelerates as long as we're not stealing the data from people who have not agreed for it to be used. That's unethical. But once it's ethically sourced, it's a tool, and the thing people need to understand too is it's also not really intelligent. It doesn't think. It's
Mm,
just very good at predicting what the right answer is given all the data that you've given it so far. Given the prompt, given what it's been trained, it's very good at guessing the next thing, but that doesn't mean it's right. It just means it's the most likely thing. So if the internet said a million people said the wrong thing and it ingested
mm.
it, it's going to say the wrong thing. Right, unless a human corrected it at some point, which hopefully happened.
Yeah, yeah. And I interview another political science professor, and she said that she asked students to like a lot of her assignment is that she asked students some political questions, and then asked students to ask different AI chatbot like Grok, like ChatGPT,
Yeah,
the same questions and list it out and ask students to exercise the critical thinking. Like, what do you think Quark said? And what do you think about like a ChatGPT said? And which one do you think is the best, kind of like a saying? And which one you think is a little bit, biased? And yeah, so come up with your own after you ask all the chatbot and come up with your own. And I find out this is very, very inspiring because students of course, everybody use AI chatbot because I remember before I interview a couple of faculty because also my job is AI fellow. I'm also trying to listen to a lot of faculty how they currently use AI. And I find out the good use of AI is like that faculty or you mentioned that your friends using AI and keep using exercising your critical thinking to
mhm,
identify which one is good, which one is bad, and come up with your own, which is the combination. The other way is, I would say, is like the doing, like in teaching, is very, very weird. For example, like one computer science teacher said that, oh, I will trying to write my own coding style. And if student is not following my coding style, and when I review it, it's not following exactly what I'm teaching them. That must be AI. So she will
mhm,
grade it like F. And I was like, and I asked her question, is your coding very basic or very abstract? Like sometimes, AI can make things like a very, very systematic and very
yeah,
efficient.
yeah,
Like I asked her coding style and she said that, oh, it's very basic. And I said that, what if, because in community college, we have a lot of student that is already be in the industry for a while and come back to recharge. And what if your student is better than you and you are
Yeah,
the
exactly.
ceiling?
You don't wanna force people down to the average, right? You'd like to
Yeah.
allow people to be exceptional. I've dealt with that my entire life where,
Mhm.
I learned matrix multiplication before I had physics in college. I already knew how to do linear algebra, because it was relevant to what I liked. So I used it on my tests, and they said, "Show all work." They solve simultaneous equations and show all work. I plugged everything into a matrix, used Gaussian elimination, and I got the answer in half the time. And I literally wrote down all the matrices, so that is showing all my work. They wanted to grade me off because I didn't solve it the way they thought I should solve it. I'm like,
Yeah, right.
my way is better. I'm using
Yeah.
Gaussian elimination and I solved all your equations in half the time. Why would you take points off for that? I should be teaching you how to do this as opposed to you taking points off.
Yeah, I do agree because I find out that teachers that against AI, and I remember some students they even form because like AI is such a big thing. Even though in industry we treat it like a, oh, it's normal, you have to do it, but in school it's like not really normal. Some students even create no AI religion types of like a club that you cannot use AI. You only need to use human made. And sometimes, when students go to job interview, some students with like a no AI policy in mind because their professor says unethical, they will tell the employer immediately that I am not using AI. So if you use AI, I'm not. And I was like, hey, you
Yeah,
are
there's a
trying
lot
to
of people
get a
like that.
job.
Look,
Yeah.
there's kind of 3 camps. I hate to be reductionist, but there's people who are gung ho, go jump into AI, wanna do it for everything. There's people who say, "No way, I'm not using it for anything." And then there are pragmatists who say, "Let me evaluate it, see what it's good for, be careful about the use, not use it unethically, use it in appropriate ways." And we may see in the world, religious groups like for example, the Amish who said, we think civilization was fine around 1850. That's where we wanna settle our technology and live our lives that way because things started to go wrong after that
Yeah.
point. Somebody else might even pick an earlier date, or somebody else might pick 1937 or 2016. But the point is anybody can decide to live their life the way they want to and create the society they want. But there's also gonna be a group of people who try everything and do all the latest things, and they'll have all sorts of body modifications and implant technology in their eyes and, the cyberpunk kind of vision of the world, and they'll exist in the same world as everybody else. And it's a question is how do we all coexist when you have people who say, "None of that stuff is good," other people say, "All of that stuff is good," and then people like me, maybe you, who say, "Let me just evaluate each thing and see what I'm comfortable with and what actually works, and then we'll decide."
Yeah, yeah. I think the interesting side for education, and I think education, the reason why a lot of people, including me, after I got laid off from Meta, I just like because my entire family, my parents, everybody in my family are teachers. So I was like, the first thing is jump to education. That's like
Yeah.
go back home. And my mom even said that, see, I told you, teacher is not too bad. It's pretty
They always
stable.
need teachers, and if I couldn't work in tech, I probably would do carpentry and something like that. Like that for me, I like building things with my hands, and I do that anyway for fun or around the house when we need stuff. So I like building things. I do a lot of work with 3D printers too, and make things that are missing, and parts that don't exist. I go invent. And so I always like building things. So if I couldn't do this other stuff, I still have stuff that I hopefully would be able to fall back on. But it's hard when you wanna try to live on the cutting edge and work at these companies,
Yeah.
and they don't always do the right thing. They make a lot of
Yeah.
mistakes, and there's not a lot you can do about it when you work for them. You can quit, or you can wait to get fired, or you can go out and do your own company. But even if you intend to do better than them, there's still the market forces that affect it. Like, look at Anthropic. We talked about Claude, right? They left OpenAI because they thought OpenAI was not ethical enough.
Yeah.
And they went and got accused of pirating all the books. So they've done things that a lot of people think, including me, think were unethical.
Yeah.
And maybe they're more ethical than OpenAI, but they're
Yeah.
certainly not the most ethical. They're not as they're not as ethical as they could be because everybody's racing to try to build this so-called AGI that
Yeah.
they
Right.
think is going to change the world, but they're not looking at the cost of doing it, the cost to everybody of
Yeah.
of running ahead without thinking clearly about what are we doing. They're just running so fast. And that's what it's like working for a big tech company is that they're all running really fast, kind of like running with scissors that your parents probably told you never to do. They're all running around with scissors, and they're surprised when people get hurt. Well, you're running around with scissors. Someone's going to get hurt. You know.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, like, for example, like, it because the industry running so fast, and there are like education was so behind, and yeah, so I think a lot of people start jumping to education because there are a lot of opportunities, right? For example,
Mm.
XR. XR, I can tell you that it's very hard to get headsets or XR, any products, sell to education. Part of the reason is because now I think in a couple of months, there's a super strict policy that is going to run in force into California Community College system, which is very strict accessibility. For example, for blind students, for students, and also low income students. So every time when I talk about VR in my group, and people will say that, oh, VR is not accessible. It is true because not everyone has the device. Not everyone can access because one of the law in California Community College, every content teacher deliver need to be accessible to any students in any circumstance.
Yeah.
So for VR, there's just like you said, you don't like device, right? Same as a lot of professors. And professors, some people wear VR. I think a VR is not really designed for people who has motion sickness, and a lot of us
Absolutely.
we have. And I told everybody that I only can stay in VR for around 40 minutes because
It's
even though I'm
biased
telling
against
you,
women. It's been shown that
yeah,
some of the research that's come out has shown that women have more trouble using VR headsets than men. And it may be related to motion sickness, but it could be a lot of things. Right. It could be that one of the things that I wonder about is women tend to be a little smaller than men on average.
right.
And if that translates to the interocular the IPD, right, distance,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
women have average smaller IPDs, some of these devices are not designed to work for people. This is one of the reasons I say they shouldn't be used for kids for at least for any sustained amount of time. I let my kids use VR headsets for 15 minutes and then they have to take a break because the IPD of these things is not set for a small head. It
Mhm.
just isn't right. And the child doesn't know to tell you that it's
Yeah.
wrong. They just
Yeah.
look, hey, this is really cool. They just want to keep doing it. So I don't want to create any vision issues or brain issues, developmental issues in kids. So I'm very concerned about the use of VR headsets for younger people.
Mm.
For adults, hopefully they can tell you when something's wrong, that it's like I can't converge the image, I can't see 3D,
Mm.
or I feel nauseated. And you're absolutely right that better devices. I'll tell you that the Apple Vision Pro, we spent a lot of time on this
Mm.
because that device has to work for everybody, and there's still things that people complain about. People complain about the weight and the offset. The fact
Mm.
that it's heavy in front is an
Mm.
issue for a lot of people who feel like it's gonna hurt their neck. I've heard that complaint,
Mm.
and I understand it. But it also is, for me, the first headset that I could wear that doesn't make me nauseous. So because the specs are high enough that the frame rate and the field of view and the latency is low enough, all those things were pushed to the limit in order to make a headset that would be more accessible to a lot of people, but you can still point out ways in which it's not accessible enough, and the weight is one of those. And so there's nothing perfect out there, and that limits adoption. There's a few things that I like. I mean, there's a company that I work with and I'm an advisor to, that has a very lightweight pair of AR glasses, and it's great because it's light and it's cheap. It's only $300. It's accessible in that way. Its main limitation is that you have to look at a special tabletop that has a special surface on it that bounces the light back in your eyes.
Mm.
And so it would work great for a classroom situation in which everybody's sitting around a table. You could have 3, 4, 8 people all looking at the same tabletop with their own pair of glasses, and they could all have a group experience together. and it's more accessible because it doesn't have a lot of the same issues. It's called Tilt 5, by the way. So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
it
I
it's something I think would be great for education because the price is, more affordable. It
mm,
uses the computers you already have, so it can already hook up to whatever computers you already have. You don't have to buy new computers for it. And it's good for the group situation, so we have to find solutions that work, and maybe other solutions that work for other people might be, um, projected environments where you don't even have to wear anything on your head,
yeah,
but you could be in a special room if you have the space. You could be in a projected, VR type environment that's useful for a couple of people to sit at the right spot in the center of that room, and get a good experience. So maybe it's a variety of solutions, not just one that works
mhm,
for everybody, because none of those visual solutions is gonna work for somebody who's visually impaired. You're gonna need to find a different way to accommodate the differences in their, needs, to be able to do it in the same way that we have wheelchair ramps and we have stairs. Some people use the stairs, some people use the wheelchair ramps, but you have to have both, right?
yeah, yeah. Just like you said that, for example, projectile, right? Like a projection. Right now in Lake Tahoe, they got a couple $1 million fundings to create more like a projection, because Lake Tahoe is pretty much, I would say, a very important place for the firefighter training because the nature, there are a lot of fires. So their fire academy was very, very well known, and now I think that they create more like a physical types of like facilities and using the projection to do the fire simulation for their fire academy training. So I think everybody like use more like immersive technology in different ways. Cool. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Do you have, for example, like a advice for example, like a building startups or for college students that wanna get into, for example, like XR space or like AI or tech space? Do you have any advice for people who wanna, become like you? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I try to help as much as I can. That's why we do mentorship at the guild as well. We try to help people who are at earlier stages in their career, with people who have more experience in the same way that I was helped. So I think it's important to help that way. So my current advice, and I've applied some of this to my son who's 16, not at college yet, but thinking about where to go, is to learn the tools, to learn the AI tools and not shy away from them because they are gonna be important, but don't assume that we have to rely on them because it's like we said before, it's the human difference that you can apply that is what your value add is gonna be. Assuming anybody can use the AI tool, think about what your specialty is, and you don't have to know it right now, but develop lots of skills. For me, it was high performance 3D graphics. I was one of 100 people in the world who was really good at that in the '90s. Now everybody can do it, and it's not what I do anymore. But, and that's another part of your career is that you may have changed. You may have something you specialize in now that you become really good at, that you're excited about, and that in 10 years, it might be something else. It's a continual learning process to see what you can pick up and apply and figure out all the things that you can be exceptional at. It's gonna be different for everybody, so there's not one advice fits all, but if you sit down and talk to anybody, you can try to figure out what that is. Um, I think that the most important thing is if we're talking about XR, is don't take the news to heart. There's a lot of BS in the news. So if you read the news, most of the articles the last 2 weeks say Meta spent 80 billion dollars on the metaverse and then canceled it. Well, first of all, I was never a big proponent of the metaverse as a term anyway. I thought it was a flawed concept to begin with. Having worked on things like that for 30 years, I had experience and said, here's where the problems are. Like I have known exactly where the problems are because the mistakes have already been made for 30 years. So it's very easy to look back and say, well, don't do it like that. That's the wrong way to do it. But yet Meta went ahead and did it exactly like that. And they found out the hard way, F around and find out is kind of the operative word. They found out the hard way that it doesn't work, and so people say, "Oh, they wasted all that money." Well, that's one company. Meta is not the metaverse. There's other people that still love the concept of the metaverse, and they're still working on it, and there's other products out there that follow that goal of putting everybody in a virtual space together. Now, that's not personally where I am. I'm more on the AR side now. I like the idea that you could come into my space as a hologram or a persona if it's an Apple Vision Pro, and I could come into your space and we could meet virtually without going into a virtual world somewhere. We don't need that. It's much more comfortable to be able to just teleport and see each other. So I like that side of it, and that's one of the reasons I worked on things like that is because I'm much more fond of those things. For people who are coming up and coming, think about what are the things that we need that aren't just cool or new or different. What do we need? What are the core human needs that we need? And focus on those. So, for example, communication. The reason I'm passionate about this co-presence idea of we can be in the same place communicating without having to go teleport to a virtual world, um, is because human communication is fundamental. We spend most of our time, well, it's what we're doing right now is communicating, right?
Yeah.
Humans need to communicate and we need to feel connected to each other. So figure out what ways that we can apply our skills and some technology as needed, only as needed, to aid in those human interactions. And that's always going to be in demand. As long as there are humans, we're going to need ways to improve the ability of humans to interact with each other. So if I were doing a startup, I would be focusing exactly on that, creating support, love, affection, communication, understanding, um, and maybe productivity, which is always useful, but changes. Whatever we define as productivity, there's always something new about that. But what doesn't change are the fundamental human needs for connection. And by that, I don't mean replacing relationships with AI. That is not what I'm talking
Mm.
about. I don't have a high opinion of these AI companions that are meant to replace people. Even in the case of an elderly person who might not have family members who might need companionship, and it's not replacing anything. I think we can find better ways to address their needs with real humans, as opposed to trying to supplant it with things that really cannot approximate humans in any meaningful way. Um, they can superficially, but not in a meaningful way. So anyway, that's what I would spend my time on if I were doing company. And anything you do there that is new and important and meets a human need is going to be valuable.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned that you think just like Jeff Bezos mentioned that he is not seeking for things that keep changing. He is looking for things that don't change. So I think it's just like you are seeking for something that is core value of human,
Yeah.
like for example, more soft skills, right? Communication, how you communicate effectively. Yeah. So I think creating the product that people want and also seeking for something that is the core of humans' value, right? And also, like those are more for startup idea, more like a advice. And how about for example, for your son, for
Yeah.
students that currently in college? Because I heard a lot of my students, they said that should I give up? Because for example, if I choose biology, right, the chatbot is like a PhD level, and when I change any single tiny way. And I also listened to some interesting leaders in blue collar job like workforce. They said that the thing about it is that parents right now doesn't want their kids to be mechanics, right? Because in their mindset, oh, my kids, it's like a fixing the car in the yeah, and they invest them a
Yeah.
lot. So right now, another kind of like a rebranding or program that I'm trying to push is that we're trying to rebrand that EV mechanics more like position them as white collar job. Because in Tesla, you are not really using gears to fix cars, but instead you are using, computers to and it's like a high
Yeah.
paying job and stock option, and you work for Tesla. So the blue collar becomes the new white collar. And you see, like, there are a lot of infrastructures will be made, like space. When I heard of like a crazy, like recently, like Elon Musk is like some crazy, like Terra Fab, like building
Yeah.
data space in data
Oh,
center
don't
is
get
really
me started on data centers in space. I could talk for an hour on that one alone. Let me to try to answer your question. Here's the problem. There's this debate right now of, oh, maybe people should go back to blue collar jobs
yeah,
because
right.
a lot of the white collar jobs are getting
Mm.
taken by AI. The fact is, people are working on robots too. So robots are just a little bit behind AI. They need amazingly good AI to function in the world. They don't have it yet, so they're not
Yeah.
safe yet to deploy. They need people behind them training them as to what to do. So the robots are coming. So
Mm.
the idea that I'm going to go back and I'm going to focus on manual labor as opposed to computer labor doesn't make sense because the manual labor can be automated soon just as easily as the computer labor. So I don't think that's the right way to think about it. The right way to think about it is the approach that I've always taken is you start out with a certain level of skills, and eventually, for everybody, those skills are going to be obsoleted. Eventually, enough people learn how to do the thing that only you could do, and they copy it. And it could be AI or it could be robots copying it, but somebody's going to copy it. If it's lucrative, somebody's going to copy it. So what you always have to do is to always reinvent yourself. And what I would say is try to move up the stack as opposed to just moving sideways to a different part of the stack. Figure out how you can migrate up the stack, which is to say, if you were teaching one person today, if you're doing one-on-one tutoring, figure out how to do one-on-10 tutoring. Figure out how to build a company that might be able to scale tutoring up. Moving up the stack means figuring out how to solve the important problem at the bottom of the stack, but then figuring out how to scale it so that you can help more and more people with the same ideas. And so you don't want to just become the one thing and be stuck in that one thing. You have to continually reinvent yourself. Like I said, I started with computer graphics, and then I built game engines, equivalent of game engines, and I don't wouldn't do that today because now I could get Unreal. It does a better job than I did, for less money. So you don't wanna keep doing that same thing. Learn how to always reinvent yourself and move up higher and higher in the stack as you get more and more experience. Hopefully, you get more experience with management as well, so that if you did wanna start your own company, you could get more younger people to come help you, and you could also help raise them up. As
Mm.
you progress in your career, you could be helping a whole bunch of people move along and up the stack. But if you're just starting out, you don't have a lot of choices. You could either go try to become an entrepreneur on day one, which is very challenging when you don't have the experience to do it.
Mm.
You have the energy, you have the time, you can work 18 hours a day, but you don't necessarily have the experience to know what to do. Well,
Mm.
get the experience. Go try things or get advisors, people like me who come in and help with their experience to help you avoid the problems. But you can go that route. Not everybody should be an entrepreneur. I'll never say everybody should go start their own business because it's hard. It's challenging and you can lose a lot as much as you gain. So, don't just look at the positive examples of entrepreneurs as the only thing. Look at the 9 out of 10 people who didn't succeed.
Yeah.
They got experience at least, and they
Yeah.
try again, right? It may take you the way to look at the 9 out of 10,
Mm.
startups fail is you have to try 10 times.
Yeah.
Statistically, not that it always works on the 10th time, but statistically, don't give up on the first time. Try it 10 times, and you have a decent chance of succeeding. Um, so you got to be the kind of person who can stick with it and keep trying despite failure, despite being told no, despite it looking bad for most of your life. Not everybody can do that. A lot of people want more stability, and that's kind of going away, though. I think that the companies are not reliable in the way then not that they ever were. It's not like in Japan where you had a job for life and there was loyalty. There's no loyalty. Don't assume that the company is gonna be loyal to you, and they should never expect your loyalty because they're not offering it. And so not that you should undermine them, you should do your job, but don't expect to be staying there forever. Don't feel bad about changing jobs when it's not working out, because they're not showing you that same faithfulness that you might be showing them. Um, but think about how always have a plan for what are you gonna do if the thing I'm currently doing doesn't work out? What's my fallback? What are 3 other things I might try? And some of it should always be learning. Some of it should always be figuring out something new because the world changes so fast that you can't just stay still.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with what you said. Just like last Friday, we have like internal. I would say it's a very interesting debating, because right now we are higher as more state level, trying to facilitate our own vertical because we have 13 AI fellows. And it's interesting. My thought is like you. So the way that I do things is that I'm trying to interview or reach out to a lot of change makers who is willing to lead and change. And then I ask them to find faculties who want to join. And then I give that person a leadership. And then I'm trying to help them, assist them to bring a lot of leadership, original lead, to come up with like grand proposals. So once it's done, right, for example, like I help like a one EV proposal, and later on I will help like a firefighter and
Yeah.
start with one school and the neighborhood school, and later on region, and then three different regions and become a statewide project. And I got a lot of questions. First, I got one of the fellows kind of questioned me like, "Hey, Dom, this is a part-time job and we only have such a limited energy. How can you have so many projects that across so many different areas? And we all know that, for example, like XR takes another 10, 20 years to master. And for example, firefighter, healthcare, if you are leading so many initiatives, maybe just focus on that one thing, right? Because,
Yeah.
like education, the professor, teach us like just focus on one thing and become the expert of one thing. Why not you just focus on that one initiative, like a EV, right? And make
Yeah.
it really good, and that's it. And I just I said that okay, so my job is not because there's a leadership, right, who execute everything. I treat myself as an investor. I told like all my leads in different region, in different subject. I told them that you are the lead, you are the startup founder, and we are the incubator. We are the investor. So if you
Yeah.
see chancellor's office, I put a lot of people trying to add people in. We provide you resource and make you success. And once you success, you will be
Yeah.
independent. And we want like in the future, if there's any project, we will soar to you. So I told her that I am more like giving all my resource to that regional lead or the college lead and make them to, give a lot of funding to them and make them impactful and start leading the entire
Yeah.
state level instead of me trying to learn how to do healthcare in XR, trying to write everything, trying to find faculty. I said that I'm more like a consultant behind the scene. And when they come to me, they ask, for
Yeah.
example, they need my emails to reach out to some people, and I did those for them. And they will be the person who will be the actual lead. And later on, we will fall behind the scene. So this way I can use my limited time energy to facilitate. And later on, so my thought is that, oh, this way it's scalable. It's not like
Yeah.
a me has to be everywhere, has to know everything. So
Exactly.
yes. So
No,
I
that's
think
exactly right. And think about it. First of all, everything useful and valuable does take effort and time.
yeah,
You can't just do a million things and expect them to all be good,
yeah,
right? So anything valuable is going to take somebody. So, but the ideal is the person who's spending the 100 hours on the hard thing is
mm,
passionate about it. They enjoy it. They get paid for it, but
yeah,
they like it and they wanna do it. And I don't like to do everything. There's lots of things that I don't like to do. So, if we can find people who love to do those things,
mm,
let's empower them to do the things they love to do and connect them with other people who love to do other parts.
yeah,
And you're the connector. You're the person who's bringing them all
yeah, more
together
coming.
and empowering them to do more than they can do on their own. And if we had more people helping like that, then we would collectively get more done. But we can't all be networkers. Some people
Right.
have to sit down and actually do the hard work and then become the domain experts. But even for those people, they need a plan B. They need
Yeah,
I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna spend 10 years becoming an expert at this thing, but always in the back of my mind, know that somebody else can also become an expert at that, or a computer can become an expert at that. So
yeah,
how am I gonna pivot to the next thing that might also take me 10 years to master? And we can try to help them by showing them which of those things are going to be both fun, rewarding, and the right thing for them to spend their time on. So it's almost like you can have your core of your 80% of your focus, the thing on that you love doing, but reserve a little bit of that time to be looking at what else you might be doing and have your fingers in other pots. We used to call these hobbies, like all the other things you did. But have a lot of hobbies. Don't just do only one thing because
Mm.
that one thing is always at risk. And don't be
Yeah.
nervous about it because this is life. Humans have gotten to this point because we're adaptable, right? That
Yeah. Right.
this is why we're in the position we are, good and bad. We're here because we're adaptable. So be adaptable.
Yeah. 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 Today, I think I learned a lot from you and I did a lot of notes. Cool. So, yeah. So, what's that one thing you still like to share that we haven't touched on yet?
Ooh, I gotta think of something. Um, well, we didn't talk at all in this one. It's a whole big discussion, so I don't know how much time you want to spend on it. But
Yeah, it's all
the
good.
the
Yeah.
the the, the news, the thing that I tend to post a lot about lately because it bugs me a lot is
Hmm.
I really want tech to work out. Like I want all day wearable AR glasses to be something that
Hmm.
actually serves people and doesn't exploit them. And I usually spend a lot of time talking about this, so I'll spend my last minute or 2 on that. And my biggest concern today is there are a few companies out there who don't appreciate the sensitivity of putting something on your face that
Hmm.
can record you and everybody around you in
Oh,
high
I know. I
detail.
am. Yeah.
And so this is something where the reason I'm so passionate about this is because I want to get it right. And if
Mm.
there's a company that's effing it up by doing it the wrong way, like they all
Yeah.
just did previously for
Yeah.
a bunch of VR stuff, they're
Yeah.
going to mess it up again. And by messing
Yeah.
it up, they're going to set the whole industry back 10 years because nobody's going to trust anything
Yeah.
because of one or two companies that
Mhm.
can't make good decisions. And they have so much more promise. There's like, there's smart people working there that they don't
Yeah.
listen to who can
Yeah.
give them better answers.
Mm.
And we gotta do something about this because it is gonna blow up again. The
Mm.
same thing happened with the metaverse is gonna happen with smart glasses if
Mm.
we are not careful. And so that's my soapbox is to say there are known right ways to do these things to mitigate a lot of these privacy concerns, to make all day wearable glasses or any other personal AI work for us and not against us. And people need to make choices with their dollars and with their feet to
Yeah.
not buy the product, to not wear the product, to not promote the product that is doing harm or
Yeah.
potentially doing harm, but to focus on the ones that are trying to do it right, to support those companies that care about privacy, that care about empowering people. And there are always alternatives. So go spend your money where you can focus on
Mm.
helping those companies that are trying to do the right thing. That's
Yeah.
my soapbox, and then I repeat it too much. People are probably bored of hearing it, but it's something I'm passionate about.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you that, for example, yeah, we all know because it's so big, the news is so big that Meta, right, using like a smart air glass, right, and a lot of workers reported that they see something they shouldn't see, right, in their house.
Yeah. Well,
So,
and think about what had to happen to make that possible. It's not like 2 people were having sex and they said, "Hey, Meta,
yeah,
record this." That's
yeah,
not apparently what happened. It was the
yeah,
glasses recorded it on their own,
yeah,
and it got automatically uploaded and sent to these workers in Kenya who reviewed it.
yeah.
Like, that should never happen. That is not okay.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that I remember a few months ago or a long time ago, I remember one time I saw my phone. There's a red recording or something listening, and I was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I was, it's like I didn't do anything, so it's like which app is doing this?" And because I work for the company in the past, so I know probably it's that one. So I delete the whole entire
I
apps, a
I
family of apps.
agree.
Yeah.
I will not, yeah, no, in the future, we're gonna have our personal assistants from some of these companies are going
Mm,
to take pictures whenever they feel like it.
mhm,
There's a good reason that they should
mm,
if they're built right, and that
mm,
is the AI needs to understand things before we ask it the question because it doesn't
mm,
necessarily have the context
mm,
in order to answer the question properly. Like if I a good example is if I say to the AI, "Where did I leave my keys?" How would it possibly know unless it was looking?
yeah,
Before
right.
I ask the question, right? So
Yeah.
that's an example of where it could help you, but if it's always looking and it's uploading that stuff and learning from us and sharing the data with people who shouldn't see it or AIs that shouldn't see it, that's not okay. So, the stuff has to be designed with privacy in mind. And some companies are trying really hard. They're not
Mm,
perfect, but they're trying
yeah.
really hard. And other companies they seem to be trying to recreate the glass hole effect of Google Glass. They seem to be racing straight in that direction for no good reason because it's only going to bite them in the ass.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, like just like you said that why this needs to be people like monitoring us without our consent, right? And I remember I saw like one of the really interesting internet meme is that Mark Zuckerberg's laptop there is like a sticker put on the camera one
Yeah.
so you can
Yeah.
see that he probably
He knows.
knows something. Something
Yeah.
will keep recording, right? So, yeah, so
He gets plenty of privacy. Like, he has people to go make sure that whatever he does in Hawaii is private. The whole
yeah,
security force there to make sure no one's taking pictures to him, but he doesn't
yeah.
provide the same courtesy to everybody else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like a lot of AR, AI glasses is going to launch, right? Like, for example, like XReal and the Google, their Project Aura, and also you see like a Snap, right? Their new glasses is going to launch, and also Meta. I think Meta is probably postponed to next year, right? So just like you said that the smart AR glass or those types of AR glass, well also we will feed those datas of our world, like a world model, right? And maybe later
Yeah.
on feed to the robot, so robot can be more functional. So yeah, so I think the world is becoming very very interesting, and if everybody has AR glass, the thing about like teachers, they like to ask questions that how can I prevent student from cheating? And I said that if they're on the smart AR glass, everybody has one your oral presentation. I mean, they can just look at, the cheese stuff and trying to say and yeah, so it's very hard. I mean, maybe there's no cheating anymore. It's more like a education will be we help student to become the person they want to be.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
better. Yeah.
the thing that came out today is that, prescription these already exist. There's already smart glasses with prescriptions, but not ones with cameras that much yet. So Meta is reportedly gonna be coming out with a prescription version of their camera glasses. And then you can't just ask people to take them off because they need them to read. So if someone's taking a
Oh.
test,
Huh.
they say, "I have to wear my glasses because they're my prescription," but they also have to have cameras. So we need a way of proving in some cases that the cameras are off, like in the locker room, in the courtroom,
Mhm.
right? Those are places where you wanna say, "No, you should not be filming those things," right?
Yeah.
But in the case of taking an exam for school, yeah, that might be one of those cases where you wanna be able to prove that the camera's off. If somebody has to be doing the test on their own, they're not allowed to use AI in those cases, then the camera glasses have to be off. And currently, there's a little light that doesn't really work. Nobody knows it's on. It's not
Yeah.
useful, and they get people for $60, they can disable the light. So the we're gonna need better ways of proving that the cameras cannot see and not just that, but privacy out in public as well, because now the company that has the glasses can figure out not just what the wearer is doing, but what everybody is doing if they can
Yeah,
identify
right.
your faces. And reportedly, Meta was going to roll out a feature. They're just waiting until everyone's distracted, according to their note. As soon as things in the world are bad enough, they can put out this feature because no one will notice it, which is going to do Face ID on whoever the glasses see.
Yeah.
We have to say no. We have to say there's a right way to do these things and a wrong way to do these things.
Yeah.
And there's a right way to do Face ID. Your iPhone already does it the right way. It
Yeah.
doesn't share that data with other people. It doesn't do it in the cloud. There's a right way to do it. So anyway, I could talk a long time about the right ways, and I try whenever I'm critical, try really hard to say, but that's not the only way to do it. There are many better ways to solve these problems that are empowering of people, and they don't steal your information. So we have to focus on learning which companies do it the right way and which companies do it the wrong way, and force them by our dollars and purchases to do it the right way. Just don't buy the stuff that's doing it the wrong way. It's not worth it. You're not getting that much for your dollar.
Yeah, yeah. I think Face ID, right? And I think Saint Omen long time ago has another company which if you upload your iris, right?
Your
That's
iris,
the
yeah, Dogecoin.
yeah, that iris I think is
Yeah,
the
it's
last
the wrong
frontier.
way to do it. Like, is the future that all of us have an orb on our desk that scans our iris every time we want to authenticate ourselves? No, that's not the future I want. They should never have my iris. That's very private, and it
Yeah,
can be used to impersonate me. So,
yeah,
no, I'd say absolutely no to WorldCoin. Don't participate. That's a total nonsense. But there might be better ways to solve the same problem that don't
mm,
have the same concerns. If we can find alternate approaches, I'm very interested in answering that question of how can we prove that people are human,
yeah.
but not give away their identity or not give away, not be dystopian in the way that we do it. So maybe there's better answers.
Yeah, yeah. I think technology need to serve us in a good way, right? Not
Exactly.
sacrifice our privacy or not sacrifice the individual's, rights in order to make profits for the big companies. So yeah, so I think what you say is like really help us to rethink about the current, the race of each companies which one is doing the right thing. And you see that Anthropic, once when they say no to the company contract for the government, right?
Yeah,
Contract, and everybody start subscribe them, right? And
absolutely.
yeah, so I feel like, wow, it's interesting. We thought government will protect us, but it's the big company with big vision. Even though you mentioned that Anthropic is trying to, pirate a lot of data, but I think some parts of them are doing something that people feel like, oh, I want to put money on you. I want to invest you. And also I saw Google today, they are investing Anthropic as well because it seems
Interesting.
like they need money as well. So yeah, so
Yes.
I do think that yeah, sometimes we can use our money to help support the company that we agree and or like they do the right thing and they
Yeah.
really help the society. Yeah.
It's like voting in politics. If you don't use your voice, you will lose your voice. If you don't exercise your choice, you will lose your choice. And we can see that very clearly now, that in a certain direction with certain people, we are going to lose our ability to choose the future that we want. So you better exercise it now while you can.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. Like not only, the political thing, but also, for the technology, we are the customer. We have the rights. We have our dollars as our voting ticket.
Exactly.
Yeah, to vote which company we want to support.
Exactly. That
Cool.
was
Yeah.
that was that's the thing I wanted to add. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. We release episodes weekly. If you enjoy this conversation, check out our other episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Support us by giving us a follow and a 5-star rating, or subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Thank you and see you next time.
Bye bye. Thank you.
人. Ren actually is human, two human. So the other side, two lines, that's two. And then that part is human, 人, human. So two
Human to human.
to human.
Awesome. Thank you for explaining that. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, to human. So that is that word. So yeah, so if we can based on human and especially community college, we have a lot of different background of people. If we can give them like a more like personalized, and I think AI can really help us. But also we also address a lot of like AI issues such as privacy, data, right? So pretty much we just go around the world. Yeah. So yeah, I really appreciate Rick, and it was really inspiring conversation. And that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. We release episodes weekly. If you enjoy this conversation, check out our other episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Support us by giving us a follow and a 5-star rating, or subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Thank you, and see you next time.